All right, everyone, grab your seats and welcome to today's Explainer. We are diving into something truly wild today. It's one of the most chilling, controversial case studies in modern behavioral psychology, Dr. Adrian Vale's Illicit Room 404 experiment. Now, as an ethics professor, I spend a lot of time up here discussing the boundaries of human free will with you all, but this particular case, it pushes those boundaries to the absolute breaking point. We're going to explore exactly what happens to the human moral compass when comfort, certainty, and trust are systematically stripped away.
Quick look at the syllabus before we jump in. We'll be hitting the setup, the variables of manipulation, the collapse, Vale's thesis, and finally, the illusion of choice.
Let's kick things off with Section 1, the setup.
So, to really understand the outcome here, you have to picture this bizarre premise. 5 complete strangers are drugged and wake up in this highly sterile, intensely bright, windowless white room. We've got Daniel, who's a former soldier, Sophie, an influencer, Mia, a medical student, Marcus, a pretty highly anxious guy, and Ethan, this remarkably quiet stranger. None of them have any memory of how they got there. Suddenly, a calm voice over a speaker promises them each $100,000 if they can last 7 days in the room. The catch? There is literally only one rule. Always tell the truth.
And that ominous broadcast is reinforced by a massive sentence painted in thick black letters across the white wall. Only the honest mind will survive. Notice how this instantly sets an unsettling, super paranoid tone for our explainer today. I mean, there are no physical threats visible anywhere. No weapons, no traps, just endless fluorescent lights, zero shadows, and this absolute demand for honesty.
Which brings us to Section 2, Variables of Manipulation. I want you to trace the rapid escalation of this experiment. We generally tend to think of societal breakdown as this slow, gradual process, right? But take a look at how quickly civilization crumbles when baseline comforts are removed. Over just 48 hours, these subjects were hit with sleep deprivation, rising temperatures, and seriously escalating psychological torture.
The first major variable was the weaponization of guilt. On day 1, hidden slots beneath the beds delivered envelopes to each participant. And inside, true, deeply dark secrets from their pasts. We're talking Daniel's military past causing innocent deaths, or Sophie having cheated someone. Then, out of nowhere, the voice announces that someone is watching them, just observing how guilt changes behavior. Instantly, they stop being strangers and become suspects. It's like tossing a match into gasoline. Paranoia totally takes over.
But here is the real kicker: resource scarcity. The next morning, their unseen captors provide breakfast, but only 4 bottles of water for 5 people. By introducing a deliberate shortage in an already super stressful, sweltering room, the experimenters forced an immediate, desperate competition. It wasn't even really about the water, you know? It was about destroying their solidarity from the inside out.
All right, moving on to Section 3, the collapse.
Before we look at the climax of this case study, I want you to chew on this Socratic question for a second. At what point does survival override morality? Keep this in the back of your mind. Think about your own breaking points as we observe how these specific individuals reacted when they were pushed way past the brink of rational thought. Because it all comes to a head in a truly harrowing moment. Following a terrifying night where Ethan is actually voted into a dark isolation room and comes back inexplicably changed, the voice congratulates them on finishing Phase 1. But instead of letting them out, the lights just cut out entirely. Total darkness. A massive metallic crash echoes through the room. When the lights flicker back on 5 seconds later, Sophie is dead. But here is the absolutely crucial detail. She wasn't physically attacked. She died from pure, unadulterated fear. A panic attack so severe that it literally stopped her heart.
And Sophie's death? That's the catalyst for total collapse. We see wildly differing behavioral reactions from the survivors. Marcus, who was previously just anxious, has a completely violent outburst and starts smashing the wall with a metal chair. Daniel resorts to deep aggression, falling right back on his military training to defend himself. Mia, the medical student, just shuts down completely into despair, weeping on the floor. Their moral frameworks have completely, utterly dissolved.
And that chaos leads us right into Section 4, Vale's thesis.
Because when Marcus violently smashes that wall in his panic, he actually breaks open a panel, exposing a hidden observation room. And this reveals the dark truth behind the whole experiment. They find thick files with years of surveillance on all of them. Well, all of them except Ethan. Ethan's file is missing. Turns out,
Ethan, the quiet participant who barely reacted to anything, casually admits he helped design room 404. Think about that for a second. He reveals that the room never actually laid a finger on them. All the damage, all the violence, and yes, even Sophie's death was entirely self-inflicted by the group's engineered panic.
This perfectly illustrates the core philosophy of the mastermind, Dr. Adrian Vale, who finally steps out from the shadows with a simple, chilling premise. Fear is stronger than conscience. After 20 years of study, Vale proudly claims that if you remove comfort, certainty, and trust, civilization just disappears in days.
And to prove his point one final time, Vale triggers the grand finale. Blaring alarms erupt, red lights start flashing violently. A giant steel door appears at the back of the room with a glowing sign that reads, "Only one may leave." The second that door unlocks, a violent, totally chaotic brawl instantly breaks out among Daniel and Marcus. They literally fight for their lives to be the one who escapes, proving Vale's grim hypothesis right there in real time.
Finally, let's wrap things up with Section 5, the illusion of choice.
We really need to look closely at this definition of psychological coercion. It's the systematic use of manipulation, isolation, and fear to strip a person of their free will and dictate their behavior. I'm asking you, class, apply this to our subjects. They were subjected to rising heat, severe sleep deprivation, hidden guilt manipulation, and weaponized trauma. Did Daniel and Marcus really choose to fight, or was that choice essentially made for them by the extreme parameters of Room 404?
So here is the big debate for today. On one side, Dr. Vale believes humans will always voluntarily choose survival over honesty, and that morality is basically just a fragile mask. But our ethical counterargument here is engineered psychological coercion. Look, if an architect entirely rigs an environment to systematically guarantee your psychological collapse, your failure is involuntary. It's forced. Ethan claims he wanted to see if humans could choose honesty over survival, but the game was inherently rigged from the very start.
I'm going to leave you all with this final, provocative thought to take away from today's explainer. If your environment engineers your panic, are you truly responsible for your actions? When all the lights go out, when the water runs dry, and when the red alarms start blaring, what would you have done in Room 404? Think critically about that as you leave today. Class dismissed.